Good Miniature Monday, friends. Rodge here, aka the Wisco Horn Dog. If you're wondering why it's looking a little different, undergoing some major home renovations at the Rodge Lodge here, painting walls, moving crap around, and that's probably going to be a few weeks before I get that squared away and return to the normal setup. But got old Billy set up here for good luck, and we are good to roll. We're going to power through, and today we're going to chat about going back to old finished models and why you would want to do that, if you should be doing that. And this came about because last week I was taking some photos of my last few Infinity models that I haven't posted online for the world to gander at, and I was actually taking photos of my Avicenna model. And take a look at this chick here, and there's always something bothering me about this. I painted up for Adepticon, so I was under a bit of a time crunch, so I didn't really have any time to go back and do like a second take at it. And what was bothering me was actually the legs. So my initial thought was to do some kind of sheer or transparent type of look, and I don't really think I accomplished that. It kind of turned into something different. This, it's kind of a purplish, but it's highlighted with a really light skin color. And the issue is, look at her hands and her face. It's a dark skin color. And if the legs were, if that's her skin color poking through, she would have the pastiest damn legs that I've ever seen on anybody. And so I wanted to go back and actually touch that up, and I got a little out of hand because I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just add some shadows and stuff, but I actually ended up completely revising it and turning it into just a skin color that was kind of matching her natural skin color. And I'm really glad that I did that. It turned out really well. I'm happy with the result. I don't know if people really think about that frequently, but if you have a model, it didn't turn out great, typically for me that's time crunch type things, definitely go back and fix it, because why the heck wouldn't you? So there's a sunk cost fallacy where I've spent all this time working on these models, and if I go back and do something, basically that 5 hours or whatever it's going to be, the time I spent is wasted. But it's not like you're making that decision now to spend 5 hours that you have available. It's already been spent. It doesn't matter one way or the other, except going forward, are you going to be happy with it or not? And I guess that's something you need to make a decision about. So as I said, I've done this on my trash heap Necrons, the scrapyard Necrons. These were some guys I did for Gorka Morka. And you can see my original scheme here ended up as a basically super rusty, kind of a rush job. I was trying to get them done for our campaigns. I didn't really spend a lot of time on them, and they ended up kind of flat. And I actually went back and literally painted over those existing colors, that orange scheme, and was just messing around. And this was after watching the Painting Pyramid shaded base coat, I believe, by James Wapple. And so I just went to town on fixing these guys up and getting them up to standards. Now, I didn't really get the whole gang done, but I got a good 4 or 5 of them, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with these guys, because it's quite time consuming for kind of a diversionary project like this. So we'll see in the future. I'm kind of thinking I would like to come up with a third way to paint these bad boys, but as far as the techniques can go, I literally just painted over the Necrons, and then with the Avicenna, I just painted over it as well. So you don't actually have to go back and like strip anything. I mean, there can be issues with layers of paint, but that's like if there's like 10 layers of paint, or after a while, I'm sure it'll tell. But I've never really had any issue with that in the past, and I've gone back and reprimed things multiple times, and the results have always been pretty good. If as long as they're hit with a dull coat or a matte varnish, they're going to be somewhat tacky, not perfectly tacky. So what you might want to do is just do a real thin kind of a glaze or a wash of some kind that isn't really loaded with pigment. It's just there to kind of wash over the varnish level. So you're kind of back to a nice paint level, paint level of stickiness. So when you're going to paint over whatever you're going to paint, just basically is a normal technique, and it doesn't feel like you're painting over something glossy where you're going to get mixed results. So yeah, the other thing you might want to do to go back to visit old models, and I've done this a bunch of times as well, is actually cut these friggin' things up, convert them, use them for different stuff, and I've done that several times as well. Take a look at my Twilight Sisters here. So the Twilight Sisters are a pair of special characters from the old last couple Wood Elf books, and they can ride a big ass dragon or they can ride a eagle. And I actually had both of these chicks posed on this giant stag, which I was using as an eagle due to his powerful wings there. And you can see they're not actually on it because I popped them off. So even though it was a finished model, I went back and I wasn't going to use them again for the same turn, for a different tournament, I should say. And I fucking popped those bitches off, put a different dude on there, so kind of a typical rider, and they are now on the sidelines, and this dude is now riding the eagle. So I went back to a finished model and made that update to save me some trouble for coming up with a hero eagle model. And I think, I can't remember if I've done it or not, but I think I've gone back and forth a couple times. So I've went back, pulled the dude off, and then put the chicks back on for a tournament, and then put the guy back on, gluing them each time. And it is kind of a hassle. I wouldn't recommend that. And then there's another time as well where I've gone back to finished models, and that was with my Dogs of War Rodge model. And this guy, something of a legend. He looks sort of like me if I didn't have a beard, which for my earlier days I was beardless, but he has a nice triangle nose there, and he's not wearing glasses. I used to wear contacts a lot, so this bro used to look a lot like me. And my friend John, the Silver Fox, he actually pointed it out when I was just posting pictures of these guys, and he's like, "Did you make that guy look like you on purpose? Because that third one in the back there looks like your clone." And I was like, holy shit, sure enough. So this Rodge model, he has gone through several iterations, and this is the original model that I kept from that Dogs of War army. I've sold it, but we're going to take a look at some pics. I actually used that head, so I popped that dude's head off and put him on a I think the model is called the Rutgar Empire General. So I had this Dogs of War General guy, and I popped his head off and put my Rodge head on there. And they were both completed models, but so I have this painted Rutgar head. I think it might still be in my bits box to this day. And I've got the Joe Rogers head on there. And so I used that guy as my general because why the hell not? I'm in charge of this shit anyways, so I might as well have a model that properly represents me. And so he was mounted on a horse, and then I was doing an Asarnal the Dragon Lord for my Dogs of War, and I was like, if Rodge is the boss, he's going to be riding this dragon too. So I popped him off the horse, and then afterwards I did like magnetize it so I could swap them back and forth. But I put Rodge on the dragon here. You can see he looks pretty cool. And then I'm not sure if I'll be able to find a picture of it or not, but I actually converted up a Pegasus as well. And there's a Rodge, the Pegasus rider. And it was all magnetized now, but I didn't put it together thinking I was going to do that. So I actually pulled apart existing model to use a rider on a different creature. So you can see there's multiple reasons you might go back to existing models. And if it's something that's never really been on your radar, I think it's something you can definitely consider. Another reason would be if you're a broke-ass bitch and you can't buy any new models, you might go back and fix your old ones. So that is a third reason there that you might consider. But I know some people who never go back. my co-host for Point Hammer, Johnny, never goes back to anything that he did previously. So I'm curious if you're in that camp as well, or maybe if you change your mind after listening to this, or what your thoughts are on going back to existing models, touching them up. Have you done it before? I would love to hear your tales and about your successes repainting or reconverting models to new purposes. I think that's a cool idea. But I think that's about it for the topic this week. We're going to hit the hobby desk right now. On the hobby desk, you can see some pretty good progress this week. I finished that stupid little bot, and let's take a look at a picture here. You can see I need to do some black lining, but I'm thinking he's pretty much done. The flat open areas are really killing me on this one. And it's the same thing with my cutter model, my tag, where the armor plates are so big that it's really tough on my yellow scheme because I use 4 different paints. I use an ivory, a bright yellow, darker yellow, and a scorched brown, not scorched brown, terracotta. I'm using Vallejo paints. And using a transition of 4, I think 3 would be ideal, but adding that 4th one really complicates things for me. And on tiny armor plates, you can get away with that, but on these big ones, I'm kind of lacking the depth that I would like to see. But it is a big flat plate, so it's not like, it's going to be black on the edges and completely white in the middle. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Doesn't match perfectly with what I'm doing. If I really cared, I'd probably put a big logo or something on there, but this is a model that is probably never going to hit the tabletop, or very unlikely it's going to hit the tabletop, since 1, you got to take a tag, and then 2, you have to actually basically deactivate your tag so you can pop out and momentarily do something with this little crappy bot. So I'm happy with this. And moving on to the black friar, the red friar, perhaps I should say. I got just the foot, some decent progress, hoping to finish her this week. And then my Rincho, Bushido, Gremlin, Demon type creature, you can see some good progress on that guy as well. And for those following along at home, there was a cat Teardome, and he said last week he was going to get his Batman Miniatures Ra's al Ghul model finished, and he sent me a link, and I'm going to post it right here. What I like about these night models is when they're copying the movie, the actual people, they look freaking phenomenal. They really look like those people, especially with those new Harry Potter ones. Those are pretty amazing models. I don't care for the comic book IP or the Harry Potter. Personally, I mean, they're pretty cool, but I don't see myself playing a game. But the models themselves are super badass. And I think Teardome, you did an excellent job using the liners. I know you're a fan of those. And the entire scheme is nice. Muted, it's realistic. I love the blade and the skin, the face work there on our Liam Neeson is looking outstanding. So thank you for posting that, sending it over, and that's awesome that you were able to finish that last week per your goal. If you would like to set your own goal, please go ahead, post below, or hit me up on Twitter, contact me, however you see fit, and just play along with us and kind of hold yourself accountable. And maybe if you finish your so sweet model, I will post it up on here. But thanks to everybody for watching, subscribing, following my strange ramblings, and just keep on hobby horn dogging, and I will catch you guys next week.